Greetings, divine greetings, everyone. Generations upon generations, upon generations, upon generations of wealth to you and yours. May you be in good health and spirits. May you be in the purple, in your magic, in your intuition, in your imagination, and in your royalty. I give thanks for this is the day that we have all collectively made, and we are to rejoice and be glad in this because this is the day. This is the day that we all have made. Thank you so much, Goddess. This is okay, so this recording would be our seventh, our seventh,
Wow.
I believe. Believe it will be our seventh. I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah, because last week was the sixth. So we are so very thankful. I have been enjoying the comments saying this is timely, it's in alignment, and this is something that is needed right now. We thank you all for leaving your comments. Please leave your comments, engage with us. If you want to continue dialoguing about anything that we discuss, we would love to hear from you as well at the email that we posted too. Um, so we've enjoyed the likes, we've enjoyed the comments, and
Mhm.
today we definitely want to hold space for things that are happening within the collective. Goddess has been feeling some things that are needed for the goddesses to be aware of right now in this moment. And I'm just very much looking forward to her feeding us and nourishing us with the words that the Most High has given her for our souls. And so, Goddess, I know it's been a minute since you talked about the talked about the prophecy part. And
Mhm.
before you, I guess, get into more of the prophetic message for right now, would you mind just sharing again the prophecy that came to you regarding the goddess for those that may have not watched any of our episodes prior to this one?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Sacred, for allowing me the time and the space to share, the wisdom, the vision that God has given me for this time. The prophecy that I was given, it's been 30 years ago, was about the spiritual transformation and elevation of women into their goddess self. And when I say their goddess self, I'm saying who God created them to be. We did not come from our parents, we came through our parents. We came from the mind of God. We are a feminine expression of God. We also have a masculine too, but we come here to really express the feminine dimension of God. And so when I talk about the vision, I mean the prophecy was that in the day of revelations, the world as we know it will come to an end. But in the womb of the goddess, the seed and the vision for the new world has been implanted. She will awaken and she will emerge and she will give birth to a new world. She will travel across many nations and she will teach and she will give birth to a new creation of sons and of daughters who will know love and who will know God. She is truth and she is light. She is the second coming of Christ. And what that's meaning is that the Spirit of Christ will begin to rise in certain women. And the women that were born for this time to embrace their God self and become a vessel for which light, peace, love, harmony, wisdom, and beauty can flow through. And so, in the presence of the goddess, people will begin to feel the presence of God, which is what is needed during this time, is to feel the peace and love of God. Because God needs a vessel to move through. You know, because God is energy, it's light. It's a vibration. So, as women, we are containers, and so we have the ability to tap into that vibration and that frequency and bring it into this dimension. So that's what is required of those women who have come to be the light during this time. I also wanted to share on Oprah. There was a man who, and people can look this up, who was in a plane crash. And he was the only one that survived. And his seat was ejected from the plane as the plane crashed. And when he turned around and he looked at the people in the seats, they were strapped in and the plane was on fire. And he saw their light bodies stepping out of the physical body. And he said what he noticed was that some people, their light bodies were lighter than others, were brighter than others. And so he said how it changed him is that he decided in his life that he was going to be the best person he could be, so that when he died and his spirit left his body, his light body would be bright. And so that's what we're here to remember, that we are light beings. We're not our stories and we're not our bodies, but we are beings of light. We are vibration. We are frequency. We are energy. And based upon our consciousness, when I say consciousness, based upon the thoughts that we think and the beliefs that we hold as our truth, will determine the vibration and frequency at which we vibrate at.
Oof. Mm, thank you. Thank you for that soul nourishment. I feel like, especially these days, in the past months, there's been so many things in life that would create heaviness in the heart that dims the light, right? Especially when,
Mhm.
as the world, like as we know it, is ending, right? And those old stories are coming to the surface, and many people aren't knowing what to do with that. It's it's coming up and it's creeping up past traumas, um unsolved stories of, especially right now with Mercury retrograding, right? A lot of people are like, you're returning to stories that at times were hurtful, that deeply
Yes.
impacted your heart, your emotions, and not knowing
Mhm.
truly how to respond to that. Do I call and just go off on this person finally because I have never said anything to them? How do
Mhm.
I hold space as a goddess and keep my light and keep my love while these stories are coming up that have been stories of pain, suffering, hurt? So, would you be able to share with us in that space, how do we respond to everything that is coming up emotionally right now for us?
Well, we live you know, in cycles. Life has cycles to it. And right now we're in the revelation times. Um, and so this is a time for man to evolve, we have what we call an emotional body. I think we talked about this before. And our emotions are really dictated by our belief system. And this world has programmed us to see things a certain way. So, based on how we see things, will determine our emotion. Because first there's the thought and then there's the emotion. And so it's important that we connect with our God self, or as some may say, the Holy Spirit, the higher mind within us, or our inner guide, however you choose to word it, because its job is to expand our consciousness, to evolve us, to help us get the lesson or the blessing out of the experience that we have been required to have in this lifetime. And so people are very emotional because, based on what they believe and what they've been taught, they're angry at the way their life is going. So those emotions are stuffed into our emotional body. So, I mean, I did it for years. It was like, forget it. I don't care about that. Forget it. And we denied the fact that we still were hurting, because every time we thought about that situation or that experience, we became mad, we became angry. And so those situations can be triggered through something we watched on TV, or something somebody says, or we may have a dream that night and it may touch upon something we went through that we haven't resolved, that we haven't transmuted into wisdom or light and love. And so we wake up with an attitude. But when we truly, truly understand, and this is so important because this so much really helped me, was that when I understood that this was a spiritual journey and that I came from the mind of God, and that earth is a school where we come here to learn through our experience. We come here to evolve as creation, as as God's creation, and as creators. And like I said before, there are many other galaxies, many other planets, and Earth to me is elementary school. It's one of the hardest planets to um, to deal with. So but like I said, diamonds are created under pressure, and we are to be the lotus emerging from the swamp. That's why I love the Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He leadeth me beside still waters. I love that. Psalms 23, because it speaks to us evolving in everything that we need to grow, so, evolve through this dimension that it's already been given. So it's really like an affirmation.
I
But
love
we
it.
are,
Go
but
ahead.
I want to speak to, women are taught that they're emotional. And we feel things. We are very emotional. But our emotions are, in a sense, our teachers, because they tell us we are in our thoughts and in our beliefs in that moment. And just because you feel something doesn't mean that you have to react on it. When we're in our emotions, we act from those emotions, and those emotions are based on a limited perception of our reality. And a lot of times when we're emotional, see, when we calm down, we see things differently. I have made it a practice that when I'm in my emotions about something, I don't make decisions and I don't address issues because I'm not in my right mind. There are many people that are in prison. There are many people that have caused damage to their relationship because they acted from their emotions. So when I'm acting from my emotions, I say to God, let me see this situation in a higher light. And so if I go for a walk, I meditate, pray, and meditate, and then God shows the situation in a different light. And so it was interesting because my mother, who was an alcoholic for many years, she told me the secret because she went back to school. She got her a degree in in mental health, and she went and started working to help people who are on drugs get off drugs. And she told me the secret how she got off drugs, and she said, as women, we think that just because we feel something, we're supposed to go with it. And she said, me being an addictive person, when I look at alcohol, I get these feelings in my body. And she said, and what I learned is just because I feel something, I don't have to act on it. I can just acknowledge the fact that I have those feelings and not react to them. So she mastered her emotions. And as women, we have to master our emotions. There's a difference between responding to something and reacting to it. I always give the analogy in my circles, if a garbage can was on fire, just burst into flames, what would it look like to react? You would go, oh my God, you would be in your emotions. And if you stayed in your emotions, then you couldn't respond to the fire. So you would have to go, oh my God. And then you would have to respond. Respond means to do what is best and what is required in that situation to resolve it. You know, is this the right decision for this situation? Is this taking this situation to a higher light? And the thing about men are taught to suppress their emotions. Be strong, be strong. But they have an emotional body too that they can't express. And so they stuff their emotions. Because the women, if they shared, you know, will see them as weak if they share their emotions, that they're hurt and that they feel like crying. And they can't talk to another man. So a lot of them have experienced a lot of trauma in their lives, just as women have. And the body, because the body was created in a high vibration, the body suffers because of all the negative emotions that we haven't transmuted into light or love or wisdom. And so sometimes we sedate or we seek distractions to keep us from thinking about all the hurts and pains that we've experienced in our life because we don't know that we're spirit beings and that we're here to learn lessons from these experiences. We're just mad about it. And so, with this energy um, coming onto the planet in this age of revelations, what is hidden in the dark is coming to the forefront. A lot of people are doing what they call crashing out. And there's been a lot of killings because when this energy that is on the planet now is causing this light to come, this pain to come to the surface. And if you have a lot of pain in your body, a lot of stuff that you suppressed, you know, it's causing people to be enraged. Um, and a lot of bad things are happening as a result of that.
I
So
like,
it's really,
okay.
hmm
You said, so it's really, what were you about to say? I apologize.
well, it's just a time to really know that we are sons and daughters of God and return to that communion with God and say to God, why am I here? And what was I to learn through those experiences? So that you can raise your vibration and that you can evolve and get the blessing and the lesson from those things that you went through. Because when you see things different, you become different. It's the only way that you can become different is you have to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah. You know, I recently went to a festival for it's called Rath Yatra for Lord Jagannath. And in this festival you pull him in a chariot. Um and he's the only deity that comes out of the temple once a year. And the one of the ideas behind pulling Lord Jagannath's chariot is that you are pulling the Lord into your heart. And
Mm-hmm.
so what but of course as a goddess, we experience so many things internally, right? So some of the things that were
Mm-hmm.
coming up is how how sometimes we have I'm gonna turn my camera off for a minute. Um how sometimes if our hearts are hardened, right? And or they're
Mm-hmm.
frozen, then there's no where can we bring the Lord into it? Where can our hearts, if we don't have it, if our hearts aren't open and we're not allowing ourselves to truly feel and not be afraid to be the only person in the room that's feeling, to
Mm-hmm.
not be scared to be the only person in the room that's crying in a world that is full of people that are basically operating in a zombie state. It has been a zombie apocalypse because you can't really deal with living beings if no one is in their feelings. And we're
Mm-hmm.
just we're telling women, because I remember when I first got married, it was as if the cliche was women are emotional, but it was a bad thing. So then women tried
Mm-hmm.
to be like, I'm not emotional. I'm not emotional. But no, we are. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing when we can feel, when we can let our waters run, because that is our creative energy flowing, you know?
Yes.
And like you said, it's not for us to react to everything, but further to respond, but
Well,
understanding how to respond.
you're going to react because we are emotional beings, but become the observer of your reaction. It's like, okay, I'm really mad. I want to, kick somebody's butt. That's what I'm feeling right now. But is that really what I want to do? And is that the 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 highest response that I can bring? How can I do what is best for everybody in this situation that would elevate us in this situation? It's like what the uh, president's first lady said: when they go low, you go high. So you go to God and you say, "Okay, I'm really pissed because then I really feel like hurting somebody. So show me the situation in a different light, in higher light." And you'll be amazed at what could come out of that. Growth could come out of it for everyone involved in that situation. And
Mm,
that's the only way change is going to come about.
mm,
Like
yes,
they say, we are the change that we're searching for. We have to become that change.
yes, yes. We have to offer that. that safe space to ourselves to truly feel. And when we offer that safe space to ourselves to truly feel, then we end up reflecting that safety out to the world, and we'll start having real conversations, you know,
Mm-hmm.
real conversations that yield real solutions. It may not be
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate thing that we want to happen, but none of us have been speaking from our hearts. We've been speaking from our minds. And like I learned too, everything that just because I think something doesn't make it true, you know
Mm-hmm.
uh, and you know but tapping into speaking from our heart. But if our heart is cold, how
Mm-hmm.
can God even
Well,
speak to our hearts?
yes. Well, I want to share this. When me and my husband went through a divorce, I was the one that was asking for a divorce. I wanted a divorce. And so he was upset about it. And um, we would argue on the phone. You know, uh, when he got served his papers, he was angry. And I didn't want a angry divorce. I wanted a peaceful divorce. And I was talking to God about it because I still loved him. It wasn't that I didn't love him, but I was choosing a different path for my life. And we were conflicting all the time because what he wanted, who he wanted me to be and who I was becoming was two different things. And so when I prayed about it, and this is what I'm talking about, communion with God, is that God began to show me he wasn't angry about the divorce because he wasn't happy, and I knew that. Um, and God said, it's not that he's not angry about the divorce. He's angry because he feels that you're withdrawing your love from him. He feels that you're rejecting him. And so uh, I told him the next time we got on the phone, I mean, we would get heated arguments. And I said to him, you know, I want you to know that I love you, and that is the truth. And I always will. I said, we have children together, and we still have a life together as our children have children, and weddings and things like that happen. And I said, me loving you, that would never change. I said, I'm not removing you from my life. I'm just changing your position. And when I said that to him, he took a deep breath. It was like a release. And after that moment, you know, we had a peaceful divorce. We talked about the settlement. It's like, I'm not trying to take you. I'm not your enemy, you know. And the day of our divorce, when we came out of court, he told me if I needed anything, let him know that nothing had changed as far as that was concerned. And he said, are you hungry? And I said, yes. We went and had a wonderful lunch together. And he kissed me, and then we went on our separate ways. But I had to sit in the spirit and see it from a higher light, to not react to his energy because he was very negative toward me after he was served the papers, and we would get in arguments and stuff. It's like, I don't know. I want peace.
I loved it. Well, we're in our
And
last minute and 30 seconds. Would you want to share in our closing just a vision of the goddess from a space of seeing in the higher light all situations?
well, you know what? The last thing that I said, I missed something in it when I talked about the vision and the goddess. I didn't realize it. A goddess is a ray of light riding on the wings of love. You are touched by her spirit and you are captivated by her glow. Her eyes are warm and loving. They touch your heart and they feel your soul. And to be in her presence is to be transformed. Emerge, goddess, emerge. It's our time to fly.
It's our time. Rise, goddess, rise.
Right.
Well, goddess,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye, dear. Yeah,
Right, you hear her in the background. Yeah,
yeah, I
give
hear.
thanks. We give thanks. And we will see you all next week.